Abbiamo ora l'intervento del dottor Joshua Gillis, che è specialista in terapia naturale, e ci parlerà dell'integrazione neuro-moto-sensoriale, abbracciare il nostro passato evolutivo ed i nostri partner di movimento istintivi per un futuro multidimensionale. Prego.
Grazie. Buongiorno, sono Joshua Gillis. Is there anybody who doesn't understand English? If you don't, we can raise your hand. Perfect. Nobody rose their hand, so no, they don't. Everybody understands English. If it's okay, I'll speak in English. Is that okay?
Va bene per tutti la presentazione?
Perfect. Okay. This is. I feel really honored to be here and to be at a conference for non-traditional therapies in medicine is really an amazing thing. And this is the first time I present my work for any professional, so this is a moment of a bit of nervousness, so excuse me if I seem a little nervous. But what's fascinating is the work that is being done, already presented by my colleagues, that is tying very closely into what I'm finding with my work in the neurosensor, neuromotor work. And before we start, I would like to remember to thank the people who have paved the way for us to be here where we are today. We all have our teachers, we all have our formal teachers and maybe not so formal teachers, and I think it's important to remember that a lot of what we're doing today is something that's actually been, passed down for millennium, some of the stuff that we're working with, and I think it's important to really remember these people and keep our feet on the ground, that we're finding out new things, but a lot of the stuff we're finding out is only a recognition of what the people have done in the past. And so this is only a few generations, but I think it can go back a lot further than this. So basically, I work with I'm a natural therapist in English. I work with many different therapies, craniosacral polarity therapy, myofascial work, shiatsu, polarity therapy. There's a lot of different therapies that I've studied. And there's always been a hole. There's always been something missing. There's always been something that hasn't been able to be explained other than saying there's an energy or there's a meridian or there's some block somewhere. And thanks to, for me, it's Svetlana Maskutova, a Russian woman who is the biggest pioneer right now in our time for the neuromotor, neurosensory work, opened a completely new door to understanding the human being. And so I'd like to present basically the understanding that our posture, our emotion, and our well-being can be understood by our neuromotor programming, which we have luckily born in our DNA. So it's nothing we really have to do special. Instinctual perception and instinctual behavior are, we have input and we have output. We have a dark brain. Our brain is isolated completely from our external world. And we have our perception, and then we have our behavior. We have the input, and then we have the output. Depending upon how well these inputs and outputs go, depends on how well and how we perceive and how we behave in our environment. As far as the instinctual behavior, do we have instinctual behavior in sense if somebody is feeling sad, or if somebody is in need of help, or we instinctually, without thinking, we put our hands on people in special ways. It's something that we know. And not only that, we can see even, without even specifically knowing if somebody is sad or happy, we can see these things. And what's interesting is that stress is obviously disease, and love is wellness. And there's some good reasons for that. that we'll be getting into. So there's a lot of different therapies. We got, psychiatry. We have all kinds of modern mechanical stuff with. We got our old, meridians and massage and physical therapy, touch for health or kinesiology, the Chinese wheel. But what's interesting is that if we look into our childhood reflexes, we can find a lot of ties between all of these different therapies. And so we do have childhood. We're born. There's the Moro, there's Landau, there's spinal galante, spinal pares, there's toe grip, there's hand gripping, there's push. We got all kinds of stuff that we're born with, that just happens. We don't have to think about it. And normally they're called primitive reflexes or archaic reflexes. But what is maybe not so well understood is that these reflexes do not disappear. They do not go away. They stay with us for our entire life. And depending upon how well these reflexes are integrated in childhood depends on how well our bodies work and how we behave. And slowly I'll try to tie that all together, hopefully. I'd like to this is a drawing of something that obviously is a mind game. Now, these lines are actually parallel. The horizontal lines are actually parallel, but due to moving the boxes around, they look not so parallel. But our eyes, our vision is such that even if they are really parallel, we can't convince ourselves to see them parallel. So our mind is playing games on the input. So as much as we want to think these lines parallel the way they truly are, we have a very hard time insisting on our optical sensors and our brain, the way it's dissecting this information to make it any different. And the same thing with this. Those red lines are actually parallel. Okay, and the only way you're going to make them look parallel again is by running at this. Because this is something that our mind does in space in order to anticipate a movement. So when we're moving in space, when we're moving, it bends things in order to allow for that 1/10 of a second delay that we have in our neuro-motor-sensory system. Now, as long as we look at that, we can try and make those lines parallel, but our brain won't let us. Okay? This is the power of our instinctual mind that we have no control over. Okay? Now, if it can do this to our vision, do you think it can do something else? Can it change our perception of other things? Can it control our posture? Can it control our behavior? Maybe. This is one of our childhood reflexes, the Moro, that is responsible for, in life, our ability to hug and to embrace life. STNR, symmetric tonic neck reflex, is when we first start to be able to perceive our environment. So this reflex right here is what's going to decide in your future as a child, in your future as a human being, how well you're able to perceive, how well you're able to shut down your system, your movement, your neuromotor system, and able to perceive with your senses your environment. So, and what's interesting is that as these neuromotor systems and everything is developing, we also have Erikson's psychosocial development that maybe kind of is interesting, because the way he has it developed, you can see there's clear parallels also with the neuromotor, neurosensory system as it's developing. Now, there are other people doing this work. Svetlana Maskutova, she's got a university in Poland doing, you can become a doctor in neurosensory, neuromotor work. We have Goddard and Blythe in England doing work with children, especially in the school, to help with reading, writing, and even behavioral problems. And then we have this amazing man, Doman. I don't know if you know anything about his education system, but he does amazing things. Kids by the age of 4 or 5 are reading and doing amazing things. He works very much with our instinctual ability to count, our perception of space and time. And his biggest tool is actually love. Something that children will do anything to have. And so by parents showing their children lots of love while they're doing different small activities, the children are able to learn even better. There's Brain Chim Dennison from California, who's using many different types of kinesiology, different movement, in order to help children with reading problems. This is something I do. One of the things I do, I work also, you see NTOP, that's neurological training for optimal performance, and then over in the corner now, that's neurological training for optimal wellness with children. So basically we have a stimulus. For example, if we're standing, my feet are reading off where I have my weight and are adjusting everything, all of the muscles above, in order to, what it believes, keep me in balance in a certain way. So we have an input, sensory input, it goes to the brain, and it sends out a signal to the body. I'm not thinking about it. It's just happening. Now we have people with disturbances, so we can see maybe how this can be. So these people have midbrain problems, and what's interesting is that we also know this facial expression connected to cerebral palsy and other midbrain. We know that they have kind of like flat faces. They don't express very well. And this young man in the middle is actually, his parents are Italian, but he's living in Bayern, in Monaco, and he plays for Bayern Monaco. I've worked with some of their athletes, and this boy, this young man, he didn't smile. He never smiled. And as soon as we started working on his toe grip reflex, he started smiling. Okay, so there's a lot of interesting expression things that also happen with bettering the neuromotor system, neurosensory system. So basically during a treatment, there's stimulus, and then we ask them to consciously do an activity. Okay, there's also working with pain and pleasure, so we can stimulate gently, or we can stimulate until we get actually a pain. We can get in a sense, this a pain response where the person actually makes a movement due to the pain. So we're seeing how, in that moment, how the body naturally will work due to the certain sensory points. So it's a long road to get where we are today. We started off, as microorganisms, if one believes in evolution, and then we've become humans. We have mainly 3 different parts of our brain associated with the 3 main evolutionary stages, which are the reptilian, the limbic complex, and the neocortex. What's interesting is about 90% of our body's function is run by the reptilian brain, okay? Our most basic part of our brain. We have the mammalian brain, which is obviously when the oxytocin and the vasopressin came into the picture and started creating imprinting, parental bonding, and things like this. The neocortex, so we became self-conscious and rational thinking, self-aware. Now, what my job is, as I see it, is to make these 3 brains work as best as they can together. If there is a problem in one of these brains, then the body doesn't work so well. And we have, I think you can see it more like if you have a computer, the reticular activating system is the processor. Then we have basically the ganglion area, which is like the bus where the information gets moved into the higher areas of our neocortex, where we have our consciousness, our working memory, our working brain. But basically, most of the information isn't actually in the lower brain, the cerebellum. So basically, the neocortex goes down, grabs that information, and asks for permission to use those programs. So it's not something that is controlled by our conscious mind. And we can see that when people naturally start to swim, one of the first things they'll do is they'll swim like a frog. Is that chance or is that evolution? And we remember how to move. We've also able to learn new skills. We don't only swim like frogs. We can advance these neuromotor skills and do something different. The same thing with walking. It's something we just do. And we do it maybe in a different way than a lot of our other forebears, but we walk and we can run pretty fast too. So we can take those skills and we can go beyond where any other mammals have gone before as far as running goes. And 2 legs. So basically, the 5 main archetypes of movement are the amphibian, reptilian, avian, mammalian, and then we have as Homo sapiens special skills as well. This is what basically the spines look like, okay? Now, until you get up into the human spine, there's no lumbar arch, okay? They don't do that. And that's something very special about us because we're the only animals on the planet that are vertical. Okay, so we moved out of the horizontal plane and moved into the vertical plane. And this has a lot of impact, especially when we start talking about the influence of our thoughts on our environment, changing the water quality like these Japanese people have done just with simple prayer or meditation or thought. So something special goes on in the brain with simply our intention. This is basically, I'm going to skip this because we need to get going here. This is my neuromotor test. So basically, we go through the different reflexes, and we're able to measure them simply by the response time, the quality of the time, and the precision of the movement. And here we have sort of, these are the different positions, and then there's certain ways of understanding the posture in order to understand what part of the system is suffering from a lack of integration. This man in the center with the flowers is a Finnish colleague. We're working together, developing these systems, because we've basically gone a step further into evolution than what most of our other colleagues are looking at. We're going back into the amphibian and reptilian movements, which nobody else is doing. And we're seeing amazing results, especially with athletes, they're almost instantaneous. Within 15, 20 minutes, we're already seeing foot arches, and we're 30% increases in their power and their intensity. In children, it takes a little longer, but who have problems with learning and reading and writing. But basically, we have some really good results as far as athletes go, and their ability to perform better, because their instinctual movements are becoming more perfect, and so they're being able to use less compensatory movement and more instinctual movement. So they're having to think less, basically, to do something. With children, obviously, we work more gently, we work more softly, but I'd like to, let me see if I can do this. This is a video, very quickly put together, but it's a video of basically some of the exercises that we have the children do and the athletes do in order to continue the neurological integration after the treatments. So this is would be obviously an amphibian reflex, fin steering, which is connected to the Babinski reflex. This is our first posture, and then we get into kicking. These are the avian, working with the shoulder and full body coordination. This is the spinal Perez, which is obviously very unique. This is what allows us to have the arch in our back. This is Tonic Labyrinth reflex. So for problems with balance, instinctual balance, walking on the toes or walking on the heels. How well children crawl is an immediate sign of how well they're doing. This is kind of a funky dance on the floor. That's actually not me. It looks like me, but I promise you. This is somebody trying to do that. It's extremely difficult to do something that looks so simple. And breathing is extremely important for anything that we do as far as health goes. The upper area in the thorax is the area where we stimulate oxytocin production. Oxytocin is the hormone of love, okay? It's one of the strongest antioxidants we have in our body. And by stimulating just simply with our breath, we're able to change many, many different stress processes. J-list. So basically now there's these are some different clubs that in the area of Bergamo that are using my these techniques, these different exercises, and they're not only getting good results with improved, whatever as athletics, but what's more interesting is they're seeing really big benefits in their social interaction. And they're getting, they're seeing even that their school work is doing better. This is, I think, go on. So basically, the idea is that by improving these neuromotor, neurosensory programs, we're able to better align the neurons of the brain. Because there are these neuromotor programs are the basis for how our brain is structured. So if we better these processes, then we allow our brain to work better, faster, and I believe to do what it's really meant to do, which is to bring to this planet something that has been missing. There's no other, I don't believe there's any other animal on this planet that is capable of perceiving the things and to do the things that we're doing. And I think that if we look in what's interesting is to see that if we go to Asia and we look at the way they have moved, the way they've developed their spiritual evolution is always connected to movement. There is no philosophical or spiritual movement in Asia that isn't connected to specific martial arts or Tai Chi or Qigong. And I believe that this is a basis for being able to create what they want, which is a peace, a spiritual peace, an inner sense of connection to the universe. And it's not without these movements that they're able to do it. And so, as Nikola Tesla said, if you want to find the secrets to the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And I think that what I'm finding, at least, is in this work, is that by improving the instinctual programming of our brains, we're able to release our true potential. So basically, until we can understand how to be the best crocodile, how to be the best tiger and monkey, we have a hard time to understand how to be the best human being. And what I think is interesting is that if our brains have this potential, then what we need to look at is, as I believe that Serena will be presenting tomorrow, and with her special instruments, is a way to enter the body with frequencies. And this is going to be a whole other area. But I think it's definitely where medicine is going. And the only thing I would suggest is that we need to remember to move our bodies. That this is something special that we have. We have more information maybe in our bodies than we have in our minds. And so I think that by remembering what our bodies are, how they move, where we come from, that we're able to move into the next the future. Because now that things are changing, now things are really happening. And so we need to remember how to use our brains. And so many people are not moving anymore. So people are so sedative. And until we start finding our way back into our bodies, our brains are going to not work so well. That's my opinion. And so basically, if you're interested, do I have time? If there's somebody that would be interested, I'd like to present in the back. I have my my table here, for example, for releasing some of these jaw, neck muscles. We have the pulmomentale reflex that we're using to release these tensions. And so maybe we could do that if you would like. It would be nice to show you that work. Okay, so we can go to the back of the room then.